I ran the 6 biggest company enrichment APIs against 349 real companies to find out which one you should actually buy. By the end, you'll know which of these 6 fits your situation based on 8 distinct categories they all went through, or whether you're better off buying 2 of them. If you aren't very familiar with this category, what these tools do is they take the domain and give back a full company profile: name, location, workforce, headcount, socials, or funding details. These tools give you the exact information about a company that your GTM strategy needs. The 6 providers we're going to mention today are CompanyEnrich, Apollo, People Data Labs, ContactOut, Coresignal, and Crustdata. 27 canonical files, 8 categories, same lists, same day. Now, before we start, I want to point out 2 things, and the first one is the most important one. CompanyEnrich is one of the 6 providers in this task. We run it, we paid for it, and we published it. So you have every reason to assume that the numbers are arranged to flatter us. But this is not true. That's why we made the whole task open source on GitHub, so you can also run it to see the results yourself. The second thing is that this is a snapshot. We tested from 6 to 8 of May and coverage moves. If any of these providers shipped an update after that, you can see some kind of out-of-date data in this video. So that's why the GitHub is public. You can just go test yourself and let us know about if you have seen any changes. Here's the thing about this category. Every vendor claims a match rate and nobody really publishes what they matched against. You'll see 95% accuracy rate on their pricing or product pages with no sample, no date, no data, or no way to reproduce it. And it really works, you know, because nobody checks it. I've even sat in meetings where these numbers are chosen on purpose. Of course, they're not really lying, but they're choosing the best numbers from their internal tasks and showing to the users. So we run one where the method is the product. The percentages matter much less than the fact that you can reproduce it yourself. Here is exactly how it was built. We sampled 500 random domains from Majestic Million. Random, not curated. We did not pick a sector, we did not pick a region, and we did not pick company sizes we thought we would do well on. Then we run a DNS record check on all 500, and 151 of them did not resolve. Dead domains, parked domains, things that used to be companies, those got thrown out. That leaves 349, and those exact 349 went to all 6 providers, same list, same date, the 6 to 8 of May. We have one rule that decides everything, the most important decision in the benchmark, and it's the one most vendor tasks get wrong. If a provider returns nothing for a domain, that counts as 0. It does not get dropped from their denominator. Why this matters, you might ask. If you only score a provider on the records they happen to have, a provider with terrible coverage and beautiful records looks fantastic. They find 80 companies out of 349, those 80 are Georgia's, and their average looks incredible. Meanwhile, you sent 349 domains and got 80 back. So every provider is scored across all 349, misses included. And enriched needed a definition, so here it is. A response counts as enriched if it contains a company name plus at least one supporting signal, not just an echo of a domain you sent in. Before we start, let's see what this benchmark actually measures. So you see that we're focusing on 2 things, coverage and depth. With coverage, we're going to try to understand, did the provider return any data at all for the domain? And with depth, we're going to assess how many of the 27 canonical fields came back populated. We'll also assess the coverage and depth under 8 different categories, which start with core identity, the second one firmographics, the third location, 4th socials, 5th taxonomy, 6th technology, 7th funding, and finally organizational structure. Let's start with the coverage results. This is the first data point, finding rate, and it is the share of those 349 domains where provider returned usable company data. What we see here is that CompanyEnrich has 67.6 find rate, Apollo has 61.6, People Data Lab 60.2, ContactOut 53, Coresignal 50.4, and finally finally Crustdata 50.1. Now, the honest reading of this chart is that the top 3 results are within the 7.5 points of each other. That's a real gap, but it isn't a different league, and if you're already using Apollo, you should not switch on those numbers alone. More interesting thing is at the bottom of the chart. Half of the providers tested could not return any usable data on half of the random domain list. That's the actual state of this category, and it's worse than most people assume. Finding the company is half of the job, and the other half is how much of the record actually gets filled in. Average canonical field returned per Enrich profile out of 27 tracked. CompanyEnrich 17.9, Apollo 15.4, Coresignal 14.2, People Data Labs 13.7, Crustdata 13, ContactOut 11.5. What worth noticing here is that this fully reorders the table. Coresignal was on the 5th seat when we first look at the find rate, and now it's 3rd here, as you can see. They find fewer companies, but they fill in more of the ones they find. If your workflow is small and high touch, that trait might suit you better than a higher find rate would. Nobody wins every segment. So this is the uncomfortable part, that none of the providers has the same coverage rate across different categories. As we talked in the previous sections of the video, we separated the data fields and canonical fields into different categories. And you can see in the heat map, all of these tools has different kind of strengths. CompanyEnrich and Apollo has a very high core ID find coverage rate. When it comes to tech stack, again, we can think about CompanyEnrich and Apollo. For example, another thing, organizational structure, People Data Lab comes first, and almost none of the other providers are providing this field within their company enrichment API responses. So what I'm trying to say is that if your need is an organizational structure data, this task shows you that PDL is the better tool that you should choose among others. And also, here is something you can also see by looking at across all 6 at once. Funding. The best coverage of funding data among 6 providers is 10.6%. The best one is 10 domains. Everyone in this category talks about funding signals, and nobody really can deliver them at a useful rate on a random domain list. If your outbound is built on funding triggers, that isn't a vendor selection problem, it's a category problem for you. And also, same pattern with outright zeros. People Data Labs, ContactOut, and Crustdata return nothing at all, as you can see here. 3 of 6 at true 0. Logo URLs, People Data Labs and Crustdata 0. Phone numbers 0 at 3 of 6. Not low, like literally 0 they're providing. If you're building a waterfall and you assumed every provider covers the basic, go and check which fields your fallback actually returns. Now let's go through some pros and cons side by side, looking at the providers on a single table. So what we see is that CompanyEnrich and Apollo has the highest find rates. For specifically talking about CompanyEnrich, it has the highest coverage in depth. Leads core identity is covered, location and contact, socials, and taxonomy. When it comes to cons of CompanyEnrich, we see that it doesn't lead every field. Trails on tech stack, founder tier, founding, and employees. With Apollo, the second highest find rate of this task, we can say that it's the strongest broad runner-up, leads tech stack, founder tier, and the merge funding signals. What we can see as a con is that company type, Instagram, YouTube, and follower count are not populated in their company enrichment API results. What we see with People Data Labs is that it leads with LinkedIn URLs, employee count, company type, and Crunchbase link coverage. When it comes to cons, logo, tech stack, phone numbers, Instagram, YouTube, and follower count are not populated. With ContactOut, it leads follower count coverage, and it tied Crustdata for revenue. When it comes to cons of Crustdata, using Crustdata, it has narrow profiles. Tech stack, phone numbers, most social URLs are not really populated. Coresignal has a lower coverage but relatively deeper profiles with LinkedIn, employees, tech stack, and phone number. But when it comes to find rate, it's actually below the top 4. Several socials and revenue files are actually empty. And finally, the last provider, Crustdata, is very strong in firmographics, revenue, employee, industry, founded year, and company type, but their find rate is below Coresignal with missing description, logo, phone, and tech stack. So we can say that their coverage and depth is also not really populated. Before I go, I want to say 5 things aloud because these should be more clear. 1, this benchmark measures if the data comes back, not whether the data comes back is true or not. So it's not a field-by-field accuracy audit, but it's a coverage and depth test. The second one is that 349 domains is a real sample, but it isn't every region, every industry, or every company size. It's a random Majestic Million slice cubes toward what the web indexed heavily. 3, DNS resolution doesn't mean company is alive. Some of those 349 are parked domains that happen to resolve. 4th, it's a snapshot, so it only consists of data results coming from the 6th and 8th of May. The data can age, so it will age. And the final thing I want to mention is that we run it at CompanyEnrich. It doesn't make it wrong, but it does mean that the burden is on CompanyEnrich, which is the reason for the next 30 seconds. The raw provider JSONs and scripts are public on GitHub, so you can rederive every percentage in this video from that repo. You can also change the definitions, weight the files differently, score on the categories you care about, drop out the misses count as 0 rule, and see what happens in renting. It moves, some of it moves in ways they are worse for us. If you rerun it and get something different, please let me know so we can also update our benchmark, documentation, repo, and also this video. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video. Bye!